Hey, we're going to jump right in. But before I do, this is audio only show. Just let you know up front. Let's get into it.
All right, you already know how this goes. We're jumping right in. So this is the Real Housewives Part 2 reunion. First of all, what was going on with Phaedra and Pinky's argument? I felt like that got chopped up, edited, chopped and screwed, and we don't know really what's going on. First of all, that's what I'm jumping in with, because that was the part that was most confusing. First of all, what device? Now online, they're allegedly speculating, I'm using all the little legal terms, that it could have been a gun or a taser. Then they're speculating that Phaedra allegedly went to HR on Pinky based on what was said. Pinky is the one who put it out there that Phaedra went to the higher ups. Andy comes a bit to Phaedra's defense, saying like if she really went to the higher ups, like if she really wanted to go to higher ups, she really would have. So whatever Pinky thinks of as higher up really ain't the highest of the ups, because Andy's like, she would have came to me or went to New York. And apparently that did not happen. And from the sounds of it, was that Pinky was, from the sounds of it, they had some back and forth about some device, and it made Phaedra go to someone on the network. The way I interpret that on the side piece is Phaedra's been in some past stuff before, and it sounded like Pinky also kind of said something as well, not to the higher-ups, but maybe in the circle. And because Phaedra's already been in the rumor mill and been off the show for things, she was CYA. Some people said Phaedra snitched. I think Phaedra's trying to CYA. And because if anything comes about violence and these devices, and Phaedra also called it out, say the device. Pinky was like, I'm not going to say, or so many words, wasn't going to say what type of device. Phaedra encouraged Pinky to say the device. So, and it wasn't said. But that was a bit confusing. But what it just sounded like to me is Pinky and Phaedra had some exchange in words. It seemed like somebody might have pulled a device or said something about a device, and to clear it up and make sure she was all good, Phaedra went to a higher up, which is if you tell or you pull, and then something about the wire, and Kelly saying, I don't know about more too. Kelly ain't shut up the whole time. She yapped the whole time. Rightfully so, because that side of the couch was just weak, and Kelly held it down for her side of the couch. Now, I don't like that side of the couch, but she did what she had to do. Nonetheless, back to this, it just was all over the place. And I think definitely there were some violent words of violence exchange or insinuated during their conversation. And where were the cameras? You know, it might have been on camera. This production, as we're seeing in this reunion, there's so many off-camera moments that are coming up in footage, unseen footage, this reunion. And it just seems to me like this production company is not on it. They're giving us these little storylines where things get repeated and yapped when they are missing some juicy details, like whatever was going on with K. Michelle, Kelly, and Shamia and their second friendship group. So let's get into that. So it is clear that Shamia is trying to start some alliance BS again, because it got exposed through Kay with that dinner with Kelly and Shamia and that Kay had. And when they went through the issues with the two friendship groups, if you don't know who the two friendship groups are, it's the Real Housewives of Atlanta, but also Kay's former show. Seems like it's folks from the Love and Hip Hop mixed with possibly, who knows, could be Candy. Not gonna say it is, but it seems like people from the former shows may, overlap with friendship with Shamia. So there's just two friendship groups. Kay is correct that Shamia can't ask for loyalty from Kay. Like, Shamia's asking from this loyalty from Kay and the Real Housewife friendship group, but it seems as though Shamia has no loyalty to Kay when it comes to Kay's former show group, which is the Love and Hip Hop possible group, or, a possible former member of the Real Housewives of Atlanta. And it seems like it's very one-sided, only benefiting Shamia. And I think Kay was trying to articulate that that's not fair. And I think Kay is right. You can't come to me at dinner asking me to back you up or to have your back, but in the other group, you're willing to hear some hurtful things about me, and you have to be like, well, and other people telling you not to be friends with me in that other group. But then in this group, I got to defend you. So I get, and because we can't say who it is on the show, it gets funny for Kay, and she kind of looks weird and talking in circles. But if you know Kay's history, and you know some of the folks Kay's talking about, along with former Real House of Atlanta people who are on the show, then you see that Kay is not necessarily wrong in her explanation. And Kay and Shamia, to me, is making an alliance when you are asking for Kay to have your back on this show. But in real life, you don't have Kay's back in that other friendship group. So Kay, I think through that is seeing through Shamia's bullshit and how Shamia likes to play both sides of the fence with the show and how she really is trying to make sure people have loyalty to her when the cameras are rolling ahead of time. And I don't necessarily think Portia does that with like Drew, because Drew gonna do Drew. And Portia ain't asking Drew to do that. Game recognized game when game needs to be met in certain situations, but I don't necessarily think they're having these like conversations of loyalty and alliances per se. I think that it might naturally brew some camaraderie on one side of the couch, the one with Angela and Portia and Drew, because you clearly see what's happening of an alliance on Shamia's side of the couch. And if you start one, you kind of bring the energy of a divide, and it kind of naturally makes its own alliances, and they're not going in favor of Shamia. Shamia is already starting to lose Kay. I think they'll be cute for filming next year. Don't get me wrong. I think they're going to act like good girlfriends, Kay and Shamia. But I think Kay now knows what the deal is, and I think she kind of lost that complete loyalty from Kay. Also, I love how Cynthia called it out that Kelly, Shamia, and Kay were most definitely meeting up before the reunion to get on the same page before they showed up. That's what that dinner was a week before. Now, what I think happened is they couldn't all get completely on the same page because of the Kay, Shamia loyalty issue that we just discussed. And so they are on somewhat a page, but Kay left the page and brought up what Shamia mama said about Portia, and that got messy. And I think what Kay should do for next season is try to find a way to hedge bets and stay in the middle. Don't get in too much of one side or another's drama. And I think she will be good and keep some storyline around her. She knows how to be a center of her own center and synergy of her own energy. I think she'll be Gucci for next season. Kelly was just annoying. She was annoying, but she held it down for her side of the couch. She barked a lot. Just, yeah, and everything. And when she tried to persuade Kay and say, don't listen to the noise on the other side of the couch, girl, they had nothing to do with the dinner that y'all three went to. They didn't even know about it. So Kelly definitely is doing her best fighting for her roof over her head as Shamia that she says she's out of. But she's really honed it down for Shamia for her to keep her filming and her storyline. But Kelly was going to yell because Kelly doesn't have a good chance of coming back next season. Maybe because I heard that some filming started on, I think, Shamia's storyline to some extent. But she's trying to keep a check. So she's going to keep the reads going. She's going to keep the drama going on her side. Now, I want to go into Pinky. I don't know if she's all there. I was pro Pinky this season. I like how it was cut up for her storyline. I thought she had one. I thought Phaedra's question was valid to Pinky about, hey, you have multiple investors. You have black investors. And of course, Pinky gets defensive. It's like, I had white investors too. No, but what Phaedra was trying to insinuate is that the black community's portion of holding you down and holding down black business did that. Because we often get we don't, in the black community, we often get we don't support our own. But Pinky was well supported. She was supported because you're not going to get that investment from folks in rounds of funding without having some numbers in sales. And she was highly supported in the black community to the point that black people of wealth and privilege invested in her business. And so for her to come out and the way she talks about bankruptcy almost as a badge of honor, talking about it's a tool to use. Everything she said was performative, and she practiced it because she can't have a weakness. And that's what Angela was trying to say. Hey, I put all my stuff out there and I presented my vulnerability and I lived through the vulnerability and I went through the vulnerability on TV. And you seem not to want to do that. And she can't hear it. And maybe because Pinky's pregnant now. Somebody said this is the most care nothing pregnancy announcement anybody has had or something like that. And I'm like, oh yeah, we all kind of forgot she was pregnant a little bit. But she really just, I think, has self-esteem issues, and rightfully so. People online just always say that she doesn't physically fit the bill. So she just has a lot of deep-rooted issues, and they're starting to come out big time when it's not this production cutting it up the way they're cutting up. This reunion is showing and exposing how this production is not that great. Pinky told them when everyone shared their feelings saying, hey, we understand bankruptcy is rough. It's just the way you come off, like telling us we're broke, telling people they're broke, you got money, but then you got bankruptcy. Which one is it? And then also just be a little bit more empathetic to the people who invested in you, because you're on TV talking about bankruptcy this way, and it's not sympathetic to the investors who invested in you. Pinky then deflects and says there's some misconceptions based on social media. No. They're talking about how they've seen you in front of them talk to people. And everybody's been through something on that side of the couch. Cynthia said something. Pretty much everyone on that other side of the couch has a business that's open. When Pinky says that side has no brick and mortar, and then Phaedra's like, I know you lying in so many words, because Phaedra has offices and she's deals with people who pass away, like a mortuary. Like, she has a business. Clearly, Pinky doesn't know the difference between self-funded and investors. If you're doing really well as a business, you should not need investors. You don't need them, really. That's like an American thing, like a myth, like you need to have a board and investors and stock market and be public, but you don't. Some of the most best businesses in America are quiet businesses that's been running for 80, 50, 60 plus years. Or they have a small board of investors, and they're some of them are just self and private funded. They make their money. They have clean books and they pay their employees. That's a good business. Longevity and hiring folks. And that is what Phaedra has done. And people keep getting on Phaedra, but she's run these businesses. Phaedra ain't looked broke all season. Now, you might not like what she had on, but she wasn't broke all season. She ain't been broke. She ain't been broke in a long time. She wasn't fazed by nothing. Whether she acted or not, Phaedra keeps a job. She keeps a business. We've seen it for years. So it's just kind of disheartening to see that Pinky needed her vibrato to be soothed so much that she just kept barking at the Phaedra piece. And then also to not acknowledge that Phaedra did not say anything bad about her. She just didn't. She didn't say anything. She didn't say she ate meat. She said she owned a Jamaican restaurant and it served meat. It was Pinky's own friends that said she ate meat. Shamia said it and Kelly said it. And they both apologized to Phaedra. So Pinky couldn't do that. So, she just has a narrative to protect her psyche. And her couch, of course, side of the couch enabled her. And yeah, I just think that Pinky just has some psychological issues with looking weak. She also talked and said a little bit too much. And she was like, if she was broke, or insinuating like if she was broke, she wouldn't have got casted. She talks so much vibrato, she forgets Andy is there. She did it on the last episode too, talk too much, and then forgot Andy is there to check it. Like, Andy is the end all be all of the producers of the show and ownership. So Andy was right there and he was just like, well, we don't look at your finances. So she just deflects and she talks big stuff, and it's kind of telling of just her character, and it actually made me back off of her. It makes me want to back off of her business as well. I'm not gonna knock her for it, but it just wasn't. She's not settling to me. And also, just coming up pregnant. She's been pregnant. I mean, it's so good to have a baby, but it's a lot going on with her, and we'll see. I think she'll have lots of storylines for next year. She needs to be mentally prepared, because people don't understand. They go easy on you your first year. You might have a little rough patch. They test you. Your second year is when they start digging up the stuff. Angela really held her own because there was like new cast members, and she kind of already, put her vulnerabilities out there. She's already been through the whole Charles thing, stuff with Charles and the words that were said about Charles. And who knows what Angela's year will look like next year. But the second and third year, they come for you. It doesn't get easier to be on the show the longer you're there. You just have to be on so long that all your business is on there and they have nothing else to pull. But that takes like damn near a decade. So I don't think they have that. I'm not going to say too much else. I will just conclude. We have one more show, and I don't know if I'm going to comment on it, because honestly, like the Kelly husband cheating some client of Phaedra's storyline, boring. We all seen how much Shamia is fibbing. Every receipt gets pulled in doesn't necessarily go in her favor. The one thing I do want to point out is that Shamia keeps saying that Portia didn't want her on the show. Somebody pulled clips of every time Shamia talked about how her husband actually didn't want her on the show, and she had to convince her husband for her to be on the show. So which is it? That Portia said she didn't want you on the show, and that's why you were on the show, because Andy already proved that Portia only had glowing things to say about you. So you're going to make Andy a liar? Like, pick your story with that, because off the show and your interviews, you say Gerald didn't want to be on the show. And that's why you had a hard time getting the peach. So who knows what she just says things. She just talks and says things. And if she can't be the victim, like even in that, Gerald didn't necessarily want to be on the show. She threw Gerald under the bus now. Now it's Gerald's fault. Well, now it's Portia's fault. Now it's this person's fault. Now she didn't. It's getting old, and being her friend just seems very exhausting. But in terms of like loyalty and friendship and a bunch of stuff. So let's end it there. If you liked it, what we talking about here, like and subscribe. Y'all have a good one.